Oh, wait. No.
I haven't seen him pop up.
I give him a call. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. I can meet you. Okay. Okay, he's coming in. It says he's on here. I don't see him.
You good, Eric? Guess not.
Okay.
His audio is now connecting. Perfect.
I'm good.
You good?
How's everybody?
Good, Eric. Thanks for joining us. Dominique, whenever you want to mute everybody, let me know. We'll get started.
Okay, so everybody's muted besides you, myself, Brittany, Eric, Jim, and then yeah, that's I'll have that for now, I
I
think.
want you to unmute Scott too.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on the official account, so it says Jeff Andrew, but my name is Scott.
We noticed you weren't, Jeff. But if you're ready, I'll kind of start off with some opening statements. Okay, first I want to thank Brittany for Dominique for kind of hosting this meeting today. And for the users that do not know me, my name is Mayor Frank Sippel, Lower Township. And our purpose for today's meeting is to try to provide resources, information to help businesses in Lower Township. And I want to put a disclosure out there that the township government cannot make no commitments today, of course, on this meeting. And any decisions will be addressed at a later date that we make. And already some members on the meeting right now are Assemblyman Eric Simonson. We have the Deputy Mayor Dave Perry. We have Township Manager Jim Ridgway and Mr. Scott Weldon. I'd like to thank Mr. Scott Weldon from Congressman Van Drew's office. Scott will provide a lot of information and federal assistance and answer a lot of questions we have. So everybody will get a chance to speak on today's meeting. If you want to identify your business, you can. If not, that's okay too. So before the meeting starts, I asked Dominique to kind of set some ground rules and guide us through today's meeting.
All right, so I have everybody muted basically. You can actually change your own name in the with your picture. If you just click on the little dots above your screen, you can change your name to whatever you want it to say. If you'd like to ask a question, there's a action. It's called the raise hand action. You can click it and be able to, and I'll get that notification. That means I'll unmute you, and I will you'll be able to ask your question verbally to whichever member you want to ask it to, and then they can answer you. And then after the question's over, I'll go ahead and mute you again. And then, so just use it that way if you can, to use the raise hand action. Other than that, if you just want to, you can also just type a message in the lower right-hand corner. And I think that's it. The rest is you guys.
All right, thank you, Dominique. So right now we'll start with Scott from Congressman Van Drew's office. You want to start us off, Scott, with some information and get ready to take some questions? That's pretty much the meeting, what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for being here, and thanks for having us on. Obviously, this is a stressful time for everybody. So from our side, I'm handling a lot of the small business portion and the just some of the legislative issues surrounding some of the packages that we've already passed, and then some of the ones that we're working on heading into this week and in the future. So as a heads up to all the business owners out there, there are approximately three different pots of funds that you can utilize. Two of them are completely tapped out for right now. As a heads up to the process on that, we are in the midst of refunding and reappropriating funds for those programs. First one is the EIDL, which is the Emergency Disaster Relief Loan. That is a direct through the SBA loan that has a portion that has an advance on it. as a heads up, the information that we're getting and that we're receiving is that there was a huge line of applicants for that. So initially, people, when they were applying for that, the SBA was telling them you'll get an immediate advance on that within 3 to 5 days. That's inaccurate. That's not that. I don't think we've seen that happen to very many people at all. The average processing time on that is somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks. But we are reappropriating funds for that as well in this upcoming week. The second piece is the PPP program, which is, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about, we're dealing with the most. We initially appropriated in the CARES Act at the end of last month, about $350 billion into that program. I would say within 2 weeks that program ran out of money at the end of last week. And we're in the process of reappropriating additional funds for that program right now. We are in the midst of negotiations with that in the Senate. There's some tweaks that are going to be made to it, so some associations should be added to this. But we're putting $300 billion towards that this week. And really, this is not just a direct through SBA. This is an SBA program that's implemented through your local lender. So a lot of banks, whether they're FDIC or a previous SBA lender, could be part of this 7A program. And really, what this is a great program for the local small business owners. And I'll just do a quick overview, even though I'm sure that many people know about it. It's got a loan forgiveness portion on it, so that as long as 75% of the funds that you request are utilized towards payroll, and 25% are utilized for overhead like rent, utilities, mortgage, the loan will be forgiven. Now, there's been a huge demand for this over the last few weeks. So like I said, we're in the midst of reappropriating funds for that. I know there's some questions about that we can get into a little bit more in depth on this, but that's kind of the overview of this. You have to keep your employees employed for 8 weeks. We expanded unemployment benefits as well. So that's in that now sole proprietorships, and independent contractors now qualify for expanded unemployment benefits as the third portion of this. And I've been working with Senator Tessa's office a little bit. They've been hustling on this, I know, and Simonson's office to make sure they're getting as much of this done as possible. Obviously, the system has been pretty overwhelmed on that, as I'm sure they can attest, with the expanded portion of what we added, which was $600 per week. To individuals' checks. Sometimes if they just qualified as an independent contractor, it's only qualifying for the $600 per week portion, not the additional portion that the state would be putting in from a traditional employee perspective. And I'm just going to mention one other piece for employers that are a little bit larger. And I don't know if this will impact anybody here today. There is something called the Main Street Lending Program, which is another low interest loan portion for businesses. That it's meant for businesses with 500 to 10,000 plus employees, but that doesn't mean that if you qualify for the PPP with 500 or less, that you wouldn't qualify for the Main Street Lending Program. But from a business perspective, it's obviously more beneficial for small businesses to be utilizing the PPP, as there's the loan forgiveness aspect of it, and it's not just a low interest loan. But that's a quick overview of some of the stuff that we've been working on. There's a lot more going on this, so I'm happy to chat through as much of this as possible and answer as many questions as we can at the time. And thank y'all for having us.
Okay, we're open up for questions. Dominique, anybody have any questions out there?
Not yet. I don't see anything.
And I'll give you a quick rundown on kind of the process of where we are. And I know that there are some other issues with some other pieces being funded in this upcoming round. So we're going to be doing some funding for hospitals and testing. There's also, like I said, we're galvanizing with an additional $300 billion for the PPP. And then we'll also be putting about $50 billion back into the EIDL program to keep those low interest loans financed as well. And like I said, happy to answer any more in-depth questions from the business side on this as well.
Hey Scott, the PPP is the Paycheck Protection Program, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So Rick has a question. I'm going to unmute him. You're good. Just kidding. Oh, there we go.
Do we expect any changes to the PPP when it's refunded, or will it simply be refunded on the same rule? I will admit that as a small business, I'm frustrated and disappointed with limited funds that there are organizations getting 10 to 20 million and beyond as a small business.
No, absolutely. So there's a couple different things to this. On this current one, I think we're going to be addressing some of the, so I know we had some nonprofit issues with associations that wanted some access to this. So I think we're going to be addressing the 501c6 portion on this. In terms of what you mentioned, yes, there were some companies, nationwide companies, some of them with cash reserves that obviously are frustrating people when they're seeing some funds kind of running to them when small businesses, when they're requesting loans. If you're talking about a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 loan to keep your business afloat, and you're seeing some of these companies get $10, $15, $20 million, obviously that's an issue, and that's absolutely something we're looking into. In terms of the actual language, we haven't seen the legislation. I would venture a guess that we're not going to make too many substantial changes in this current portion as we're trying to get this back to the local lenders. I would also say that the lenders are a piece of this as well. And I don't have, conclusive proof of this, but I can definitely tell you that some of the lenders might be prioritizing their larger loans because they'll make a little bit more money on this. I don't want to make any accusations, but obviously we want to protect our small businesses against that. We believe that if you come first, you should get the application through first, not based on the size of the loan, so the bank makes a little bit more money. Obviously, that's a piece of what we're looking into. But yeah, obviously that's an issue when you're seeing some of these companies, and some of them with tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of cash reserve in the bank, taking advantage of a program while we're still seeing businesses locally not able to access the funds. So obviously we're looking into every fix that we possibly can, whether it's administrative or whether it's legislative, to address that.
Thank you.
Okay, Eileen had a question. I'm gonna just mute you back and then unmute you again. Go ahead.
Hi, okay. My question is, we have two family businesses that are very small. We have like an escape room, and we have like a party facility. So we have, our family runs the one totally, and the second one, the escape room, it's like 90% just family run, and we have part-time employees in the summer. I'm wondering what kind of assistance there is for us to be able to pay our rent, our utilities, anything like that that's available.
Sure. So in terms of the programs that I mentioned, any of them, like the PPP, 25% of that can be utilized outside. Now, the main goal of that one is keeping the employees paid. But that does allow for 25% of that to be used for overhead. So that includes rent, mortgage, to pay those bills. Now, a lot of lenders on the rental mortgage are offering assistance. There's some pieces that we've talked about on federally backed mortgages where there'll be deferments. You've got to work with the lender on that side to work that out. Obviously, that's something that we've tried to push back as much as we can, but there's also obviously private rentals and issues with that. So in terms of the ability, I'd say those programs, the PPP is better for that because that turns into a grant basically once you've gotten those funds. But the other pieces are the low interest loans that would be able to help with that as well.
Okay, because since we don't really have employees, do we qualify for that PPP?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. So, and this was, I think, one of the frustrations is that independent contractors and even sole proprietorships qualify for the PPP program. And part of that is some of that was delayed based on guidelines that were coming down from the government on timeline for applications. And some of them got pushed to only be able to have a few days to apply for some of those programs. So if you are an independent contractor or self-employed sole proprietorship, you can qualify for the PPP and also the EIDL. And also say this, that just because you get one doesn't mean you don't qualify for both the EIDL or the PPP. You can utilize them for separate things as well.
Okay, so we applied for the EIDL weeks ago, received a number for both of the businesses, and then crickets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's kind of across the boards. We're hearing that. And again, this is this is I guess one of the issues that the SBA had is the amount of applications, and not to defend them, but the information they were giving out, they have not been, I like to think, people want to know where they are in the progress of the application. They do not do very much in informing you where you are. There's no tracker to kind of say, hey, you're through the underwriting portion or you're in the approval process. Basically what we're hearing from people who have gotten approved in the last few days is it just showed up in their account. There are some pieces of this. So they had a disaster advance portion on this, or a advanced portion that they modified, unfortunately, based on the demand, I believe. So there was initial, so you could request up to a $10,000 advance that even if you didn't get approved for the loan would not need to be paid back. They modified that a little bit, and this is probably going to not be great for you on this side, is they're doing it based on employees. So basically, if you have you get up to $1,000 per employee based on the new criteria that the SBA has put out. But in terms of the overall process, it takes 3 to 4 weeks is the number that the SBA has given me, even though that's taken some time to get through, even just the amount of time that might take. But I would say on average 2 to 4 weeks in that time range. So even from the beginning of when people started applying, they're still in that. So.
Okay, and from what you said, as an LLC, we can go ahead and apply for the unemployment portion of that as the sole owner?
Yeah, and that also is a great point. You are able to apply for unemployment even if you are self-employed now. That is the additional portion of the unemployment benefits that were expanded. So that also qualifies independent contractors as well. So you would only, so if you were employed for a company and you were paying into your state UI, you would qualify for potentially both benefits. But outside of that, you would only qualify for the expanded portion on unemployment for the $600 per week. Now, as a business owner, there's some restrictions on that and some issues potentially on percentage of ownership, but there is the potential to qualify for that as well. So it just depends on the specific case and circumstances that we can probably walk through, or Senator Testa or the office can help with. So
that's something our office, Eileen, can help you with.
Okay.
There is the DOL has given us just when in doubt, apply for unemployment strategy. At this point, they haven't opened up. They're going to be opening up a new portal just for the self-employed gig workers that have now access through the CARES Act. Okay. And so one of the things they suggest to do is apply to the regular site. You will be denied. Do not get discouraged from that denial, but that denial is part of the process that will allow you to go into applying for unemployment after they make the site live.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question? So one of the businesses is owned by my daughter-in-law, but she also works as a full-time nurse. But since that is part of their income, can she collect on anything for the business being closed? Or because she already has a job, another full-time job, does that disqualify her from unemployment from that?
So I had this question earlier, very similar case. The Department of Labor for New Jersey has said at this time they don't have an answer to that. However, they do recommend applying for the loss of income through the unemployment. So you might get denied originally, but they said, well, we're waiting for guidance. A denial is probably better than waiting down the line.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dominique, can I ask a question of Scott, Dominique?
Sure, Jim, go ahead.
Scott, I heard what you're saying about the banks not supposed to be taking the larger loans over to smaller companies, but in this funding, have they added new employees for you folks to help these people build in the number of oversights that have to be looked at? Because I can only imagine the workload of overseeing 200 banks to see that somebody doesn't get a $10 million loan before 100 small businesses got $100,000 apiece. That I love what you're saying, that these folks are not supposed to be violating these rules, but how can they be checked if you don't add more employees?
I mean, it's a great point, and to that point, one of the things that I always try and tell people is we had to utilize the existing infrastructure and structure of the federal government. So this is a several $1 trillion program that we're kind of operating under right now, which was implemented via the SBA, and then obviously guidelines from Treasury or IRS, and some other places as well that were involved in all this. So in terms of that, I think part of that has to be, and we did appropriate some funds for some new folks over at those agencies. But obviously the time frame was very, the federal government is not very well known for its quick turnaround on a lot of things. And all things considered, I think we've kind of put the program out quickly, but obviously we need to have some more oversight on that. But that's also to say that it doesn't mean it's that the banks and the other places, that there aren't necessarily people looking to make a few bucks off of this if they possibly can with some of the loopholes. The intent of the legislation that we passed was obviously first come, first serve. We want people to get in, and really the small businesses to have access to that. So I can guarantee that over the next short time period and over this week, we'll be looking into the ways that we can make sure that those large, especially if you're sitting on a publicly traded company or something that's, you've got huge cash reserves, that you shouldn't be taking precedence over a company that needs $30,000 or $40,000 to make payroll.
That's great news. That's great news, and we certainly would appreciate you continuing to fight for all of us in this area. That it's a majority of businesses that I just don't feel are seeing this at this point, but hopefully this changes this week. Thank you for taking my question.
Anytime.
There's a question on the side from Donna Snyder, John's Autobot. I can answer that for you.
Okay.
In regards to the state unemployment, I would recommend 1, applying and getting denied. 2, every day or probably every hour, our office is trying to reach out to the Department of Labor in regards to when their unemployment site's going to be up for self-employed. So I'd recommend calling our office. We have multiple systems where we alert you when things are live. So our number, and I'll type it, is 609-778-2012. And once you apply and get denied, I'd recommend just reaching out to us, letting us know where you are in the process, so we can immediately, I think we do calls daily to business owners. We do calls daily to people going through unemployment to let them know where they are in their process and to ring the bell. So you've been denied already. I would call and give us your full, we normally ask name, address, social security number, things like that. And we're constantly every day for the, I think, 200 to 300 cases we have on the books now, every single day checking up on their cases and alerting all of the individuals where they are.
Next, I'm gonna unmute Jan Ray from Ace Hardware. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks all. My question was, at a township level, is there grant money available that we maybe can get out to some of these businesses that are closed? This came up from another Ace retailer out in Kansas, that their township found some grant money and put it together, especially for the businesses that can open. Luckily, we're opening and are able to be open. But that's what I was thinking, like there's got to be, if there's grant money that can just do the same thing that the PPP is doing, but for the smaller township businesses that are closed and need to pay the rent, keep the lights on. Thank you.
Mayor,
take it, Jim.
Jan, I will certainly look into that as soon as tonight. I'll be talking to one of my department heads with that. And I did receive today so many emails, but there's 3 that stuck out are from a gentleman we use as a consultant to the township also, Jim Rutala. So let me scour what's out there for you, and I will get back to you, and by the end of the day tomorrow, if I see anything that can help any of these folks, Jan. So just give me a day with that.
Okay. Thank you.
And also keep an eye out. I know both programs have been exhausted at the program, but on the state level, we did put out 2 EDA loans and EDA grants. So the NJEDA had couple $1 million for small businesses and grants, and then a couple $1 million in small businesses for loans. I'd recommend keeping an update with that. Also, if you want, we can add you to a list as soon as we do start re-adding funds, which our assembly people, exactly, and Simonson and McClellan and Senator Testa have been calling on increasing funding to that program. So as soon as there is more funding to that program, it's something to keep an eye out for.
That question down there, our office is the Legislative District 1. So if you live anywhere within District 1, we can definitely help you as far as your employees with unemployment. If you want to give them our office number and just call us, and we can try and help them. Okay. Ernest, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. I had a question. I came here about 1.5 years ago from Philadelphia. I actually have worked in three different states, and you know, for years for like Peach Oil, I worked for the federal government, you know, the Air Force and a bunch of other people, and I'm an honorary process engineer for like DuPont, Raytheon, stuff like that. But I came here, and I was actually working in the Bahamas in 2014, and supposedly I was supposed to grandfather in at that time, and I didn't. But I've been licensed here in New Jersey since like 1979. When I went to upgrade my license, I just wanted to upgrade it and get the new piece of paper. They told me that I could not get a license and I had to talk to the state. So I did that, and this has been like over a year now, and it's gone back and forth. And yet I still don't have my license number. And I thought that because half of these people are now out of business, that they might consider letting me in here. And they were saying it was because of my lack of education. But yet I've gone to union schools when I was 13 years old, Otis Elevator, Retz Electronics. I was an A+ student in there. Also, I took a Chicago Institute course in refrigeration and air conditioning and heating. So I've been trying to get through this license number. I don't know if the township can help me or not, but, you know, God bless you. I know Mr. Van Drew had started to write a letter for me, and this Vivian Joe in the state department for licensing has looked at it, and she wanted me to come to not Trenton, but Newark or something to be seen before the Board of Heating people, which I'm trying to do now, but nobody will answer their phone. So is there any help for me possibly to get this license number? I have all the insurances and everything, application numbers, blah, blah, but I've been here and I have people, I have over 10 different jobs just in Villas that I worked on that were actually part of my family. And, you know, from over 20 years ago that I could show. And I even gave that as information. And yet I still am being, you know, told I can't get this license number. Like I said, I've been around since 1972. I have over 40 years and an honorary degree from other people. You know what I mean? So is there any help for some of us guys there? Thank you.
So Mr. Ryder, I believe your case was sent over to us yesterday, and we did send over more information to the Department of Community Affairs to see where you are in the process.
Thank you, ma'am.
That we will probably at the end of this week have some type of direction on the next steps, but it is something we're actively working on for you.
Thank you. God bless you, ma'am. Because I had this money that I actually wanted to donate to like the township and stuff for other things that I like music and things. That before I would have been able to donate, I had to use, you know, to cover myself for this year, you know what I'm saying, for food and housing and everything. So, but I will, you know, generate some more money as soon as I get this license number and be able to donate. And because there's many things that need to be donated to.
Yeah, Mr. Ryder, let me jump in real quick. I think Mr. Ridgway sent me your letter yesterday, and I got it to the office. I know that the ladies are working on it. So just make
thank you.
Check in with the office number, the 778, well, it's 609 area code 778-2012, and you can kind of check in there, give them some time to work on it, and we'll try to get that figured out for you.
Thank you very much. God bless you, sir. And I
Thank
hope
you.
everybody survives this mess.
Okay, next I'm gonna unmute Rick from South Jersey Marina. Go ahead.
Thank you. For the state legislative, I want to thank you very much for the clarification that came over the weekend that marinas are indeed going to have a summer. That was very important to us, and I'm not playing that down at all. That was very important to get that good, clear statement. Part of that statement, though, however, talks specifically about not opening charter boats and rentals. Is there clarification coming on that? Is that part of the stepped process? What should I be telling my customers that are for hire about what their summer looks like?
Gotcha. It's a good question, Rick, and I think I can help with that. We had a meeting on last Friday with Senator Testa, Assemblyman McClellan, and myself. We had Will Morey was on, and Leslie Giordano from the open space. So, and again, I can't speak. I'm gonna say this without, kind of like Scott said, some of the stuff, it's still in the works. But we have a meeting tomorrow with all the mayors in Cape May County specifically, and then we're gonna do one with Cumberland as well as Atlantic County. But we're gonna start to discuss what a realistic opening date would look like. One of the things discussed, and it's important because you're one of the businesses that there are businesses that we feel could do soft openings, such as your marina and chartering boats. Party boats was another one, where businesses are able to adhere to the social distancing and whatnot, and still be able to follow the guidelines set forth by the state. Obviously, but again, those businesses we feel that could start to open before a deadline. And I don't want to speak out of turn because like I said, we're meeting tomorrow with all the mayors. We're just trying to all get on the same page because there's a lot of different municipalities that aren't real happy with, I guess, the way that the state has come down with, or the governor as far as the not opening and such. So I will keep you posted on that. I can call you. But, we are looking to at least salvage, July and August. But like I said, you're kind of in a unique situation because of the type of business that you are. Some businesses are going to be easier to open and maintain these guidelines than others, obviously, that are in close quarters and, the disinfecting and all the other things that go along with it. So I guess to not make a drawn out answer, I will find out for you, but I would say that you are in a better position than most people because of the type of business you are, if that helps, and I can touch base with you after tomorrow.
That would be great, Eric. And speaking for my own industry, which is marinas, not boats. Within the marinas, there is even great diversity of what a marina is. So as you go into this meeting tomorrow, please do bear in mind that anyone who attempts to define a marina as a particular shape, that's very hard to do with these hybrid type businesses like marinas that come at us from all different facets. I can talk to more offline or to my own mayor if that makes more sense for you, Frank. If it's easier, however that works, I can do that. But my customers are also small businesses, and so before we get too deep into talking about just the marina, where I was looking at was the for hire sector, the charter boats, the party boats, and I hope that those are all different pieces of the conversation.
Absolutely. The other thing I want to mention is something that, and I know Senator Testa's been on it, is campgrounds. And the reason I think they link up to the marinas is because, and I know you have some residents that keep their boats at your marinas, and that is their living facility for the summer months, or if it's their place of residency at certain times. And that's why we're going through a thing with the campgrounds now that they're going to let the campgrounds open up to those people where it's their primary residence certain months of the year or whatever, not just the weekend camper. And I think that also applies to, I'm sure applies to some of your customers as well.
It does, and I will stop hogging this conversation here quickly, but that you just went right to what I was talking about with the multifacet. The business that at this time of year I am most interested in protecting is my gas station-like business. Boats that are in motion, that might spend one night and they're gone. And if we are not here to service them, we risk them pulling in and staying in New Jersey. And what we really want to do is get them back on their way and get them out of here. So be careful tying me to a campground purely because we're more diverse than that. There's a fuel dock aspect that is entirely unlike a campground.
And the mayor and I will talk, well, one of us or both of us will be in contact. We frequently talk to each other. So I'll give you whatever the latest updates are. I'll give you a call probably tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you. I see Ernest with his hand up again.
Okay. I got it. Go ahead.
When I worked in the lab for over 20 years, doing research and development with the military and stuff, Air Force, part of my job with the recycling for like nuclear submarines and other things was the flight of pathogens in the air. And a lot of, well, I'm not really supposed to talk about it, but anyway, I'm telling you. The pathogens that fly through the air, say you have a 20-mile-an-hour wind or air, for instance, in an air conditioning system, what happens is that if you take 20 miles per hour and you spit one molecule of this coronavirus, it's traveling on a molecule of water, and so it's gone 20 miles in 1 hour. If that pathogen lives 24 hours, then you know what I'm saying, it's traveled that far, like 240 miles or whatever. So there's a big fallacy here that you're just going to cough and it's going to go away. That don't happen that way. The pathogen actually travels sideways or wherever the wind goes, you know, like 20 miles per hour times whenever you spit, and it puts that bacteria or virus on a molecule of water, and it travels in 1 hour like 240 miles away, and then it touches somebody's face or gets in their eyes. Your eyes, one of the symptoms of coronavirus is a pink eye, and people don't even know that. They just started now to advertise it. And I learned all this stuff in the lab over 20 years at IPEC, International Process, working for the military and the Air Force and stuff, grinding up things like chicken eggs and you name it and stuff. My body is like a walking laboratory. So, you know, my blood is anyway. But that's the truth of the matter is the best thing was the mask that you're wearing is the greatest thing you can do to save each other's lives is to wear these masks, because that stops those viruses and bacteria that you spit out from getting out of your face mask and traveling 240 miles down to your neighbor, you know, 10 blocks away. So this is the truth of the matter. I hate to scare you about it, but it's just so that you have the real knowledge of what's going on. And I can draw you some sketches and things, and also dogs, animals, horses, your pet dog.
Dominic, we need to get back on track with some questions.
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Dominique?
Another question? I don't see anyone with anything. Okay.
Here's Jen.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to make one more statement with Scott. I talked to you last week and my PPP got through and all that stuff, so I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that the congressman knows you got to take care of the postal service. We can't have them going down now because a big part of my business is shipping items out. And I'm probably the largest shipper down in southern Cape May County right now. And
Sure.
whatever he can do to make that, you know, keep them funded, because we need the postal service right now more than a lot of things. And then also keep it going with the masks. Like Ernest was saying, you got to keep your face covered. We've been doing that for 3 weeks now in the store, and I don't want to get sick or have my staff get sick because somebody comes in and we've been having some issues with customers, but everybody is going along with it. But keep the facial covering going for as long as possible. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that's here to stay for a fairly long time. So.
Good.
Yeah, and your point's well taken on the Postal Service, and absolutely, and I'll take that message directly back to him. But I know he's very well aware and supportive of the Postal Service. So, yeah.
Thank you.
In regards to just a quick wrap up, and many of the people on here are small business owners, when we are going through this task force and talking to local mayors, it's very important if you want to reach out to us. We've done this since the get-go of working with the governor's office to get exemptions in this executive order. We're currently, let's say we've had a constituent with pool services, trying to not negotiate, but trying to pitch the reason why going to fix someone's pool is a good social distancing job that can go back to work. So if you have those concerns and you want to work on your individual company itself, I'd really say reach out to us. Our phone number, I can type it again in our emails, are the best way to actively try to find if your company is exempt or if it's already made exempt because another county has asked that question and they gave that county that exemption, and we can see if we can find out if your business is exempt.
Dominic, could I ask you a question because he's muted, but I just want to make sure because you said there were no more questions, but I see Larry Rosella is on the call, and while Scott's on the call, Larry is a principal in the Bumblebee food operations, and I know he's anxious to get that plant open down going to Wildwood Crest, and I just wanted to make sure he had a chance to ask a question of Scott because it sounds like they're fine in Cumberland County, but he wants to get his Cape May County operation up and running. Can you just make sure Larry's okay? I can't see Larry.
I unmuted him, so.
You actually unmuted MJ from Bumblebee, but that's okay. I'm from the corporation too.
Okay.
We are currently working on all of our procedures to bring the plant back up to producing status. Our plan is to bring the plant back open on May 18th at this point. And our training will be taking place on May 11th with our employees. We have and are in the process of setting up extra sanitation stations, plexiglass between anybody who's less than 6 foot. Everyone will be wearing face masks as well as safety shields on their bump caps for working inside of the plant. We have procedures for protocol if we get any positives, as our plant in Santa Fe Springs has been operating through the entire process.
Fantastic.
I probably shouldn't say this, Scott, but I'm going to say they're ahead of the curve.
Fantastic. So that's great. Yeah.
You have a question for Larry Hume, also Dominic.
Okay. Got it.
Hey, how are you? Hi, Eric. How are you? This is Larry Hume down at Sunset Beach.
Good to see
Hey,
you.
this is a bold question to ask, but since you're going into a meeting with the mayors tomorrow, for the businesses that are forced to close, which we are one of those, would the notion of forgiving May 1st property taxes to businesses which have been forced to close be something that could even be considered?
That's something and Brittany, maybe you can jump in here too. Wasn't that something that was discussed in the Senate this past week?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Assemblyman and I had a meeting with our tax assessor and collector because the history was that was never entertained in the history of the state of New Jersey, but I saw that coming up and thought there might be a chance where there'd be movement with that, but there was not movement. That did not pass according to the tax assessor and collector. Hence, there is no relief that the state granted at this time, and we did look at that in the event. Now, Larry's asking us specific about businesses, but I was told that there was no movement on the bill at all. So you could check that up and get back to Larry. But as of this morning, because we're in the process of looking at sending out estimated tax bills, we couldn't do anything with that.
I can answer this as well slightly in a sense of municipalities at the core of when they collect taxes aren't just collecting taxes for the municipality's budget. A lot of it is your school tax portion, which at this point, teachers are still working. We are required by law to pay our teachers. So a large portion of people do ask that question, but let's say a normal city, not 100% of your bill goes to your municipality. So they do have to have that ability to pass on the taxes to either the county or the school boards in a sense. I know the Senate has been working on legislation back and forth between allowing cities to do this, either allowing cities to bond or be able to give their taxpayers some relief. At this point, if we hear any more information in regards to legislation on the table, or if we're currently drafting legislation that would affect you, we'll keep your concerns in mind, because it is a question of not every business owner, but every single taxpayer and property taxpayer in the state of New Jersey.
Right. It's just a concern. I know 22 million people as of yesterday were unemployed. Many businesses will not come back. 3 companies that I do business with that I know of are already finished. And we have to go back to the world if we want the world back. If we lock away everyone from everything else, we just delay the results. The virus is out there. It's not going away. And I just hope there can be some common sense that comes forth in this great country of ours soon for all of us.
Amen. And Larry, one of the things, back to Bumblebee Tuna, because that's a great, it sounds like they really have a good strategic plan moving forward. I think that's what you're going to need to see a lot of. You like Mr. Weber, you're fortunate where your business is something that could have a soft opening sooner than some other businesses because of the way the layout is down there and the type of things that you do down there. But I think that's what, again, we have meetings coming up, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm confident that we'll be able to have a lot of soft openings, so to speak, just like if you were opening your business for the first time, because people are going to need time, like Bumblebee already has their plan. And Scott, you jump in if because you know more about this than me, but they, having a plan moving forward, whether it's a motel or a hotel or a restaurant, you need to educate your employees on how to disinfect, how to, there's going to be a lot of new protocols that were never, you don't open a restaurant and have your servers come in and start serving food. There's going to be a new procedure and way of doing that. And I think it was a great example of what the Bumblebee is doing, basically getting their, preparing their staff and moving forward, because let's face it, this is what it's going to be like. And I think the sooner we can get those guidelines in place with businesses, they'll be able to begin to do soft openings and eventually, get back to the full speed.
Thanks, sir.
So actually, I just got a quick update. Sorry, I was looking down at my phone for a second, but I am hearing there's some good news, just a little bit more insight into the upcoming legislative package. And this is actually probably going to be this is going to be really good for South Jersey. So right now we have a few different issues that they're hashing out, but the $250 billion for the SBA, they're still talking through Mnuchin for the transparency and protection language. So how the money will be given out just based on what we had discussed before. But there's also going to be a potential for $60 billion for the PPP to small lenders and community banks, which would obviously be very beneficial. I'm also seeing some other $50 billion for EIDL. Still hold up. Looks like we'll probably vote on that tomorrow. There's still a couple issues that they're fighting about, some local government relief and money for rural hospitals. So a couple things that they're still finishing, but it looks like that the rest of the package should have some positive impact locally.
Eric or Frank, did you want to answer Dave's question from Cool Pools about the pools opening and stuff, either or?
I think Brittany touched on that. That's like, there's going to be many businesses like that, like the pool business that we feel can open sooner than others because of the type business they are. And that's what I just talked about with Larry and with our marinas. And obviously that's a job that, like Brittany said, the pool openings and the pool stores we feel can go about their business and abide by the guidelines fairly easily because of the type business it is. So we're looking into that. We're drafting legislation. And I think as we move forward, like for instance, I got a call from bike rentals in Cape May. It's another one. I mean, people can easily stay 6 feet away from each other when they rent and ride a bike. You're allowed to be out riding the bike, and bike shops are open for repairs. So, that's another business like the pool business that we feel can get up and running sooner than others. Obviously, there's some facilities that are going to be tough, but that's why they're going to need to come up with a plan in moving forward as far as, disinfecting and how you handle things, how you wipe things down, how the whole spectrum of what we're dealing with right now. But I know Brittany, the pool business is one of the ones that is a very good example as to one that we feel that we can put pressure and we'll write our letters. We'll talk to the governor in the assembly and in the Senate. And we feel that would be one of the businesses that would open sooner than others, if that helps. Or Brittany, if you want to add to that.
Dave, I unmuted you if you.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
hey guys. Yeah, because we're a member of NESPA, and that's like the Northeast Pool and Spa Association. So we get letters once a day from them, emails that say that like New York, Pennsylvania, and us, we weren't allowed to do any new pool construction, which is like gunite fiberglass pools.
Mm-hmm.
That had to be all put on hold, which we understood. But the only thing we were allowed to do was pool maintenance. But the time of the year, of course, the pools aren't open. So they're kind of fighting with the government and everything now, saying, all right, well, pool openings are sort of essential, so you don't have stagnant water and that kind of stuff. Our main problem was, I mean, we're doing some openings here and there for like locals, but my main thing was, I mean, because I'm sure everybody sees it all over Facebook, someone from New York or someone from PA, my guys show up to open up a pool and they're from out of town. I don't want to have our company all over Facebook being blasted. And, it's kind of like, all right, take the magnets off the trucks because we don't want to lose those customers in the same token. But I know they're trying to work through everything to say that pool openings are essential. But at this time, they're saying that it isn't. But, I mean, that's what we think. We got like 2 guys on the crew. So there's not more than 5 guys.
Right.
And we're 6 feet apart. And, the locals that we are open the pools for, we're like, all right, just stay in the house. You don't have to come out. We know what we're doing. Any questions, we'll text you or give you a call. But my thing was, I just didn't want to, what do you guys think? If, say it takes another 2 or 3 weeks for everything to get through, should we still go about and open up like out of towners, or, just kind of play it cool and say, look, we got to wait till the middle of May unless we hear something else?
Yeah, I would say I see movement on that sooner than later. I would say in the next week or so. And Brittany, you could if you think it's different than that. But the other side of it is too, when we get through this meeting tomorrow with our local municipalities, that will be brought up. So we'll keep you in the loop. I would say just keep contacting our office, and as soon as we have answers, we'll get them to you. But I could see, because again, like the type business you are, that's something that could be resolved in a lot quicker manner, put it that way.
Yeah, because like the construction we understand, because some of the crews, like our subs for gunite and plaster, they're 8-10 guy crews, so they're on hold anyway, and plus they're from PA, New York, so we just kind of put the construction end on hold. So now, right, it's basically the opening to keep the guys working and stuff like that. But like I said, we get a lot of out-of-towners, Avalon, Stone Harbor, Cape May. We don't want to be one of those ones like, oh, geez, they're opening up, out-of-towners and this and that. But
yeah. Yeah, but a lot of those, don't you open a lot of those? They don't have to be down here for you to come by.
They're not down anyway. But, I mean, the only thing we're worried about is, oh, well, you're opening up, so now they're going to come down.
Yeah,
now they have a reason to come down, So, I mean, hence a lot of them, I kind of said May 15th, past that, then we'll open up their pools just to be on the safe side, because that's what we're hearing, with everything else.
I think that's the safe.
Yeah, the best way to go. I mean,
Yeah.
but like on our end too, like the NESPA, they were saying a lot of like the pool end, they're telling us it might not be till after Memorial Day weekend. So that's just a heads up from what we're hearing from the association.
Hey, Dave, this is Jim Ridgway. And
hey, Mr. Ridge.
Listen, touch base with me this Thursday or Friday. I'll stay on this. I'll try to get you the most current information, because I know we're attempting to wrap this up. And Assemblyman Simonson, just to keep you in the loop with the proactiveness of the township, because obviously we're all doing these things, but I wanted you to know, to tell your folks tomorrow, that when it comes to the sanitation efforts, we, behind the scenes, our public works, people have no idea this, but we have the directors going in on the weekend and sanitizing all the trucks, the handles, as crews shift from one crew to another shift. We're bioblasting the trucks, the offices. That goes for town hall. Our police department, when they switch shifts and they switch cars, they sanitize the cars individually. And even in town hall, where the customers aren't going, we have workers working in there right now, and we're not just practicing social distancing. If you request to be blasted, we'll have our cleaning crew in there at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, just trying to stay ahead. And I think that's the concern with everyone. We're trying. If everybody's joining in on this and doing the proper sanitation stuff, it can only help the whole area. And I know we just ordered these lights, these ultraviolet blue lights, that are going to help out at the public safety and the building town hall. But anyhow, thanks for being on the call, Assemblyman. And obviously, Scott, we appreciate all and any support from your folks. I think this was excellent, and I want to be the first to say thank you.
Anytime.
Let me close it out, Jim, with a couple things here.
Frank, let me jump in and then you can close it out.
Go ahead.
Frank, I want to thank you, Mayor Sippel, for putting this together for us, being proactive and not reactive. And Scott, I really want to thank you, because I have about 20 pages of notes here. You covered it all in about 10 minutes. So I really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, please, anyone here, use me as a resource whenever you can. Anytime, happy to help wherever I can.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Without you, I think we're a little bit of trouble for today. That's why I was texting you at 3 o'clock. Where you at, Scott? But real quick, a couple of things. I think most people on this call or meeting already know that probably about 98% of the restrictions we have on us today came from the governor's office. And so we only have a small piece that we're actually pushing on that, but most of it's from the governor's office. Well, definitely, Jen, we'll take a look at the township grants out there. And we'll look at the New Jersey grants also. We'll get back to you on that. Ernie, we're tracking your license. We'll get back to you on that. I know Eric said you had the letter in his office. I appreciate that, Eric. Mr. Weber, we're going to track on your charter boats and your fishing boats. We have it all here. And Larry from Sunset, there is some wiggle room with taxes. Of course, you have to pay your taxes, but there's some other programs out there we can work on. I haven't talked to the manager yet about it and the CFO, but we need to take a look at that. And what I would ask, and those on the call today or the meeting, if you could also email Mr. Ridgway. I know he was taking a lot of notes today. I watched them pretty much like I was doing. But if you could email him your concerns, you at least consolidate all our notes from today on a piece of paper. So when I have our conference call tomorrow with Eric's office at 4 o'clock, we'll have some information to go with. Pretty much that's it. Scott, thank you very much. Thank you, Brittany and Dominic, for hosting this today. And anybody else? Galabais, Deputy Mayor Perry, you have anything?
Yeah, Dave, I unmuted you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for participating, especially Scott. I had the privilege of talking to you last week. I'm glad that you jumped in here and gave the information that was needed for everybody. And it's been great to get everybody together today. And we're working hard to try to get everybody back to normal. So thanks again, everybody.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm like trying to hold in a sneeze. I don't want you guys
We
to
saw
feel like
you.
I'm catching you or getting you guys sick. It's just allergies. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you all. Have a great
Have a
day.
good night.
Take care.